The distress beacon had been active for 11 minutes when Lieutenant Cole Warren kicked through the wreckage door. Smoke moved sideways in zero gravity. Fragments of a shattered hull panel drifted past his visor. The ship, a Veth trading vessel, had been folded in half by something that left no debris signature, which meant something organic, something fast, something that did not want witnesses. Cole had his rifle up before his second boot touched the floor. His squad was dead, not missing, not separated. Dead. He had watched it happen through the external cam feed as his escape pod punched free of the carrier. 3 good soldiers dissolved into light and gone before he could reach the airlock. So he was alone, on a foreign ship, in a system with no allied presence for 6 light hours. Standard protocol said wait for extraction. Cole was not a standard protocol kind of man. He moved through the corridor with his back to the wall, breathing slow the way his first sergeant had drilled into him on a swamp base in Georgia when he was 19 and stupid. Slow breath means slow heartbeat, means steady hands. He was 31 now. The stupid was gone. The hands were very steady. The beacon was coming from the lower cargo level. He found the source behind a collapsed storage rack. A Veth female, young, maybe the alien equivalent of 20, pinned under a beam that had come down during what he guessed was a high-speed collision maneuver. Her skin was the pale silver blue of deep water, and her secondary eyes were closed, which in Veth biology meant pain was being processed actively. Her primary eyes were open and fixed on him. They were the color of amber caught in sunlight. She had triggered the beacon herself. Both hands were still pressed to the small emergency emitter on her belt, which meant she had been conscious and deliberate through all of this, which meant she was tougher than she looked. Her name, he would learn later, was Sile. Right now, she said nothing. She watched him the way prey watches something it is not yet sure is a predator. Cole lowered the rifle. He assessed the beam. Structural carbon, probably 200 kilograms in this gravity field. He could not lift it alone. He looked around. The rack had come down at an angle, which meant the weight was partially distributed. He pulled a magnetic anchor from his kit, fixed it to the far end of the beam, found a wall strut, ran the cable. Turgosen rigged a mechanical disadvantage that his engineering instructor would have called creative, and his mother would have called a miracle. He cranked it by hand. 3 turns. 4. The beam shifted. Sile made a sound he had no word for. He cranked it 5 more turns. The beam lifted 2 inches. Enough. He got his shoulder under it, pushed with everything his legs had, and she dragged herself clear by her own arms. The beam came back down and cracked the floor plate. She lay on her back, breathing in the uneven rhythm that signaled structural pain, but not organ damage. He did a quick field assessment. 2 broken lower limbs, bruised pressure across the torso. Nothing that would kill her in the next hour if he worked fast. He worked fast. His medical kit was designed for human anatomy. Under a Veth circulatory architecture was different in 3 key ways he knew about, and probably different in 12 ways he did not. He used what he was confident about: immobilization, clean bandaging, a painkiller compound that a Veth medic had once told him was cross-compatible at half dose. Half dose. She watched him the entire time, not with fear anymore. Something else. When he finished, she said in halting common trade language, "Why?" Cole sealed the last bandage. "Why what?" "You are human. We are not allied. This ship has nothing you need." She paused. "Why?" He looked at her for a moment. Outside the hull, something moved. He caught it on his wrist scanner, the same signature as the thing that had killed his squad. Circling, testing. "We can talk about why later," he said. "Right now we need to move." He helped her up. She could not walk. He did the math in under a second and put her on his back. She made a sound that was probably surprise. He moved. The thing outside hit the hull twice before he found the secondary docking port. His pod was still attached. Barely. The clamps had been sheared to 40%, but they held. He got her inside. He got himself inside. He punched the release. The pod dropped away from the ship. Behind them, the Veth vessel lit up from the inside and went dark. Cole set the autopilot toward the nearest Allied beacon and let himself breathe. Sael was looking at him from across the pod, her primary eyes still amber, still steady. Her secondary eyes had opened now. All four focused on him. In Veth culture, he knew. And the opening of secondary eyes toward a stranger was not a small thing. He did not know what to say. So he said nothing. That silence later was the thing she would remember first. Not the rescue, not the broken beam, not the medical kit or the pod or the sprint through the corridor. The silence. The way he sat across from her in the low light of a drifting pod, with the galaxy wheeling slowly past the porthole, and did not ask for anything, and did not explain himself, and did not seem to need her to. She had been terrified of humans most of her life. They were loud and unpredictable, and they made decisions with their bodies in ways that Veth considered reckless to the point of incomprehensible. She was starting to understand that those were the same things. The pod drifted. Cole cleaned the blood off his hands with a field cloth. Sael watched the stars. Neither of them knew, sitting in that silence, that this moment was the start of something the Galactic Council would spend 3 years trying to classify, fail completely, and eventually file under a category that translated roughly as things humans do that we cannot model. They did not know that. They were just two people in a box in the dark, alive when they should not have been. For now, that was enough. The Allied medical station designated Relay 7 was not built for drama. It was built for efficiency. White corridors, functional lighting, the constant low hum of atmospheric recyclers doing their job without complaint. The staff moved fast and spoke in the clipped shorthand of people who had seen too much to be surprised by anything. They were surprised by Cole Warren, not because of what he had done. The field report had come through before his pod docked, and the station commander, a pragmatic woman named Dr. Nina Okafor, had read it twice with her coffee going cold in her hand. She was surprised because of how he walked in, not like a soldier who had lost his squad 12 hours ago. Not like a man who had spent the night in a 2-person escape pod keeping watch because the thing that had killed his team was still on the scanner. Not like someone waiting for someone to tell him he had done well. He walked in like a man checking items off a list. He handed the medic's sales chart. He had written it himself during the night. Veth anatomy notes. Cross-reference dosage calculations. A note at the bottom in his handwriting that said, "Secondary eyes are light sensitive. Dim the room if possible." Dr. Okafor read the note. She looked up at him. "You wrote this?" Field kit had a blank log, Cole said. "This is a medical document." She needed a medical document. Okafor stared at him for another second. Then she took the chart and walked it to the trauma bay herself. Cole sat down in the corridor. He had not slept. He was not sure he wanted to. When he closed his eyes, he saw the external cam feed from the carrier. The light. The 3 people who were gone. He opened his eyes. The corridor was empty except for a Veth orderly at the far end, who kept glancing at him the way people glance at something they cannot categorize. He was used to that. Sael was in surgery for 4 hours. The broken limbs in Veth physiology were more complex than the equivalent human injury. The bones did not set linearly. They required a kind of internal lattice work that the station's surgical unit handled with 6 arms and a level of precision that made human orthopedic surgery look like carpentry. She came out stable. When they moved her to recovery, she asked, before she asked anything else, where he was. The nurse told her. The corridor. Outside. Sayal was quiet for a moment. Then she said, in trade language, tell him to come in. The nurse, a young human woman named Priya, who had been working Relay 7 for 8 months and thought she'd seen everything, went to the corridor. Cole was sitting with his back against the wall, rifle on the floor beside him, eyes open, doing nothing. Priya said, None, she's asking for you. He got up. No hesitation. The recovery room was dim. Someone on staff had read the chart note. The lighting had been adjusted. Sayal was in a bed designed for Veth morphology, elevated slightly, both repaired limbs and compression wraps. She looked smaller without the adrenaline. She looked young. Her 4 eyes were on him before he cleared the doorway. Cole stopped a few feet from the bed. How are you feeling? Like something heavy fell on me, she said. Something heavy did fall on you. Yes. A pause. You were in the corridor. Yes. You did not leave. It was not a question. He answered it anyway. No. Her secondary eyes, the lower pair, closed slowly and opened again. He had done enough reading the previous night to know that gesture. It was the Veth equivalent of a slow exhale, acknowledgement with weight. Why did you stay? She said. Cole thought about it, not performing thought, actually thinking. You were in a place that wasn't safe yet, he said. Relay 7 is allied, but the scanner's signature from last night hasn't been identified. Until it is, being near a window in a medical facility alone seemed like bad planning. Sayal looked at him for a long moment. You stayed to protect me. I stayed because leaving seemed stupid. Something moved at the corner of her mouth, not quite a smile. Veth facial expressions did not map to human ones with any reliability. But something moved. That is a human answer, she said. I am a human. Yes. She settled back against the pillow. The pain medication was working. Her voice was getting slower. I am going to sleep now. Will you stay? It was not a romantic request. He knew that. She was injured in a strange facility, in a system she had no contacts in, with the thing that had destroyed her ship still unidentified on the scanner. What she was asking for was the same thing a person in a dark room asks for. Another person. Yeah, Cole said. I'll stay. He pulled a chair to the edge of the room, far enough to give her space, close enough that his presence would register. He sat down, picked up his rifle, set it across his knees. The lights were low. Sayal slept. 2 days later, the thing on the scanner was identified as a Kurveth deep predator, a species believed extinct for 60 years, apparently not extinct, apparently angry. A fleet response was scrambled. Cole was asked to provide his testimony and his scanner logs. He provided them. He was also informed that he would be commended for the rescue. There would be a ceremony. He would need a dress uniform. He said, okay. What nobody in the official debrief asked, and what did not appear in any document, was what happened on the morning of the 2nd day when Sayal's mother arrived on the first available transport. Her name was Verath. She was a senior diplomatic envoy to 3 systems, tall, silver blue, ancient in the way that Veth elders carry their age, which is not in lines or slowness, but in a kind of absolute stillness, as if they have already seen every possible outcome and are simply waiting for the current one to confirm itself. She walked through the medical station like she owned the concept of the building. Priya, at the front desk, saw her coming and immediately stood up without knowing why. Varath stopped at the corridor junction and looked at the 2 doors ahead of her. She turned to Priya. "Which room?" Priya pointed. Varath walked to the door. She pushed it open. Cole was in his chair, rifle on his knees, same position as day 1. He had slept in intervals, eaten what Priya brought him without comment, and written 2 more incident reports the station commander had not asked for, but accepted gratefully. Sayel was awake. She turned when the door opened. When she saw her mother, her secondary eyes opened fully. "Sayel," Varath said. Just the name. The word carried more than most speeches. "Mama," Sayel said. Varath crossed the room and held her daughter in the particular way that does not need translation in any species. Cole stood, started to move toward the door to give them privacy. Varath looked up. Her 4 eyes landed on him. He had never been looked at by a Veth elder before. It was not uncomfortable exactly. It was like being measured by something that had no reason to be inaccurate. "You are the human," Varath said. "Cole Warren," he said. "Lieutenant, United Defense Corps." Varath was quiet for a moment. Sayel said quietly, "Mama, it's him." The words were simple. 3 words in trade language. But Sayel said them the way you say something you have been thinking about since the moment you woke up, which is not like saying a sentence, but like setting something down after carrying it. Varath looked at her daughter, then back at Cole. "You wrote the medical chart," she said. "Yes." "You noted the light sensitivity?" "Yes." "You stayed?" "Yes." Varath was quiet for another moment. Outside, when the station hum continued, atmospheric recyclers did their job. The galaxy wheeled on without asking permission. "Sit down, Lieutenant," Varath said. Cole sat down. Varath sat beside her daughter and took her hand. She did not look at Cole again for a while, but the way she stopped looking at him was not dismissal. It was the way you stop monitoring something once you have decided it is not a threat. Which, from a Veth elder diplomat, Cole did not yet understand the weight of. He would. The Kurveth response fleet arrived 48 hours later, and the situation classified itself as something above Cole Warren's pay grade in under 6 minutes. He watched the tactical briefing from a rear seat in Relay 7's main operations room, which had been hastily reconfigured into something resembling a war room by the time the Fleet Admiral's hologram stabilized in the center. Admiral Patricia Dunn, United Defense Corps, silver-haired and operating on what Cole estimated was her 3rd consecutive day without sleep, ran the briefing with the efficiency of someone who had decided that being tired was a personality flaw she could not afford. The Kurveth Deep Predator, the species that had destroyed Sayel's ship and dissolved 3 members of Cole's squad into light, was not an isolated incident. There were 7 of them. 7 signatures, scattered across a cluster of systems that happened to contain 3 allied trade routes, 2 Veth colony outposts, and 1 human research installation on a planet so remote its name was just a coordinate string. Under the coordinate string was currently not responding. Dunn pulled up the map. "We have confirmation of 7 active signatures. The species was considered extinct based on a galactic survey from 60 years ago. That survey was apparently optimistic. Current intelligence from Veth Deep Space Monitoring suggests these organisms have a hibernation cycle of approximately 58 years, which means they are newly awoken, disoriented, and extremely aggressive." She looked around the room. "They are also fast. Faster than anything in our current fleet at full burn. They do not have weapons in any conventional sense. They use a form of focused biological energy discharge that our instruments register as light and our structural materials register as nothing. asked because the structures are gone. The room was quiet in the way rooms get quiet when people are doing math they do not like the results of. Cole was doing the math. 7 organisms. 4 of them positioned between Relay 7 and the nearest Allied reinforcement corridor, which meant the station was, in practical terms, an island. Dunn continued. We are coordinating a response. However, the immediate priority is civilian evacuation from the 3 closest contact zones. The Veth colony outposts do not have their own military capability. The research installation is unresponsive. She paused. The pause meant what pauses at that point in a briefing always mean. I need volunteers for the evacuation runs. Cole's hand went up. It was not the only hand, but it was the first. Dunn looked at him. Warren, you are aware you have already been flagged for a commendation debrief, a psychological evaluation, and approximately 47 hours of mandatory rest. Yes, ma'am. And those seem like things I can do after. Dunn looked at him for a moment, in the way she looked at everything, which was as if she was deciding whether it was useful. Apparently Cole was useful because she nodded once and moved on. The mission assignments were distributed. Cole was assigned to the first Veth colony outpost, designated Keth 3, 3 hours out at safe speed. His team was 4 people. Himself, a pilot named Dana Kwan, who had the kind of calm that comes from having already been scared past the point of caring. A medic named Leo Santos, who talked to his equipment while he worked. And a comm specialist named Grace Park, who had not spoken yet, but had also not stopped moving, which Cole took as a good sign. They left Relay 7 at 0400. The ship was a light transport, fast enough for the run, not built for combat. Dana flew it like it was built for combat anyway, which was efficient even if it made Leo hold his kit with both hands. 2 hours out, they picked up the first signature. One of the 7, moving parallel to their course, not converging, not retreating, matching speed exactly, which in biology terms meant interest. Grace said, "It knows we're here." "It knew before we left," Cole said. "It's been watching the station." Grace looked at him. "How do you know that?" "Because it hasn't hit the station yet. Us in Relay 7 is a stationary target with no speed capability and a hull it could fold in half in under a minute. It's watching. It's waiting for something." "For what?" Leo said. Cole did not answer. He watched the signature on the screen. Parallel, steady, patient. Then he said, "Dana, what happens if we slow down?" Dana said, "It matches. And if we stop? Probably the same. And if we accelerate past safety threshold?" Dana was quiet for a second. "Then we either make Keth 3 in 90 minutes instead of 60, or we tear something important off the ship." "Take the chance on the something important," Cole said. Donna did not argue. She pushed the engine past the yellow line. The ship rattled. Leo made a sound that was not a word. The signature on the screen held its parallel course for 12 seconds. But then it fell back. Not retreat, not disengagement. It fell back the way something falls back when it has decided the moving thing is not worth the energy cost. Grace exhaled. It left. "It recalculated," Cole said. "They're smart. They don't chase things that cost more than they're worth." "How do you know that?" Grace said again. "Because if they weren't smart, they wouldn't have survived 60 years of hibernation without a support system." Grace stared at him. Leo said, still holding his kit, "Did you read a paper on this species last night?" "2 papers and a behavioral analysis from the Veth Deep Space Archive," Cole said. "Relay 7 has decent library access." Dana laughed. It was a short, sharp sound. The kind of laugh that happens when tension finds a small exit. They made Keth 3 in 89 minutes. The colony was intact. 214 Veth civilians, mostly families, in a settlement built into the side of a low ridge in the kind of landscape that would have been beautiful if the scanner was not showing 2 more signatures at the outer edge of the system. The colony director, an older Veth man named something that Cole's vocal cords could not reproduce accurately, had organized his people with remarkable efficiency. They were packed. They were ready. They did not know what to make of the 4 humans at their door. Cole walked in first. 214 faces turned toward him. He said, in trade language, "We are here to take you somewhere safer. We have 1 ship. We are going to need to make 2 trips. I need you're injured, you're very young, and you're elderly in the first group, or everyone else stays calm and stays ready." A beat of silence. Then the colony director said, "You speak our language." "Badly," Cole said. "It gets the job done." The director looked at him for a moment. Then he turned to his people and began organizing. The first trip out, Cole stayed on Keth 3 with 112 people still waiting. He sat in the colony's central building, rifle on the table, and watched the outer scanner on a borrowed screen. The signatures circled. They did not come in. Leo sat next to him. "You really think they're calculating?" "I think they're alive and old, and operating on something that works like strategy, even if it isn't. Something that got them through 60 years of sleep and woke up angry and started making decisions." Leo was quiet, and then, "That's almost more frightening." "Most things that have been alive a long time are," Cole said. The second trip landed 4 hours and 20 minutes after the first. All 214 people made it out. On the way back to Relay 7, Grace looked over at Cole from her station. "Warren." "Yeah." "The paper you read, the behavioral analysis, did it say anything about why they woke up now?" Cole was quiet for a moment. "Climate shift in the hibernation zones," he said. 3 systems over. Industrial expansion hit a thermal layer that the Kriveth use as a biological trigger. They woke up because something changed in the environment. Something we changed. Something someone changed, Cole said. Report didn't specify the species. Grace looked at her hands, but it might have been us. Cole did not answer. Outside the ship, the stars were unchanged, indifferent. They had been there before the Kriveth went to sleep and would be there after whatever happened next. Leo, quietly, from the back. "Does that change what we do?" "No," Cole said. "We still get people out." A pause. "It might change what we owe," Grace said. That one sat in the air for a while. Nobody had a good answer for it. The ship flew on. Relay 7 had changed while they were gone. Cole noticed it the moment the transport docked. The station corridors, which had been running at medical facility cadence when he left, had shifted into something else. Not panic, not military lockdown. Something in between. The kind of organized urgency that happens when smart people have decided the situation has escalated and reacted before being told to. Admiral Dunn had moved her holographic command post into the station proper. 2 of the 7 signatures had converged on the system edge. 2 of the evacuation runs had not come back. Cole got the numbers from Grace as they walked from the docking bay. She had been monitoring comms on the return trip, and her voice was flat in the way voices go flat when they are processing things they have not finished processing. 14 personnel, 2 ships, no debris field, which meant the same dissolution event that had taken Cole's original squad. He stopped walking for a moment. Grace watched him. Keep moving, he said. They kept moving. Dunn's briefing was short. The fleet response was 40 hours out. The two converging signatures were not behaving like the others. They were not circling, not calculating. They were closing. Behavioral difference from the others, Dunn said, suggests these two may be operating on a shorter cycle, possibly younger, possibly less disciplined, which in practice means they are less predictable. Cole said, or they've already eaten and are following the rest of the group. The room looked at him. Pack dynamics, he said. The ones that are circling and calculating are the dominant individuals. These two are following. They don't have a strategy. They have a direction. Dunn said, you have a source for this. Behavioral analysis from the Veth archive. There are notes on pre-hibernation observation records from 60 years ago. Observers noted differentiated behavior patterns consistent with social hierarchy. Dunn was quiet for a moment. How many papers did you read? 6, Cole said. I had a long night. A Veth officer at the far end of the room, a tall man named Varek, who had been introduced as liaison from the Veth Defense Council, said, the human's analysis is consistent with our own records. We did not have time to cross-reference before this briefing. Dunn looked at Varek, then at Cole, then made a decision. Warren, I'm pulling you into the planning group. Cole said, I'm not a strategist. No, but you read 6 papers and you got 200 people off Keth 3 without losing one. That's enough. The planning group was 7 people. Dunn, Varek, Cole, a Veth scientist named something Cole was simply going to call Dr. K in his head. Dana Kwan, because Donna had apparently impressed everyone with her flying and also her ability to remain calm while things were exploding, and 2 human officers whose names Cole filed and kept. They worked for 6 hours. The core problem was the dissolution event. Whatever the Curveth used as a weapon, it did not interact with any shielding in the current Allied arsenal. It passed through everything. The only reason Cole's pod had survived was that the organism had already discharged and was recharging. Biological weapons have reload times. Reload times can be measured. If we can establish the cycle duration, Cole said, we can calculate windows. Dr. K said, we have partial data from the original observation records. The cycle appears to be between 4 and 7 minutes, depending on the organism's metabolic state. That's a wide window, one of the officers said. It is, Cole said, but 4 minutes is enough to move a station. The room stared. Dunn said, you want to move the station. Relay 7 has thruster capability. It was built for repositioning. If we time the discharge cycle on the 2 incoming signatures, we can begin an evasive translation the moment they fire and be outside their second discharge range before they reload. And then, Dunn said, and then we keep doing it until the fleet arrives. A silence. Varek said, that requires someone monitoring the signatures in real time and calling the translation the moment discharge occurs. Yes, Cole said. If the call is late by more than 30 seconds, the station is still in range. Yes. Who calls it? Dunn said. Cole looked at the scanner screen. The 2 signatures were at the system edge now. Not circling, not calculating. Coming. I'll call it, he said. Dunn looked at him for a long moment. The psychological evaluation you still haven't done, she said. Can happen after, he said. Dunn turned to the room. Everyone to stations. We have incoming in estimated 3 hours. Cole went to the scanner bay. He stopped in the medical corridor on the way. Not for long. He put his head in the recovery room door. Sael was awake. Verath was in the chair beside her, reading something on a data tablet. Sael looked at him. Something is happening. Yes, he said. You are going to do something about it. Yes. She looked at him the way she had looked at him the first time, in the wreckage of her ship. Amber eyes, completely steady. Past the fear, past the calculation, just seeing him. Come back, she said. It was 3 words. He did not perform any reaction to them. He held them for exactly 1 second. Yeah, he said. He went to the scanner bay. He sat down. He waited. The 2 signatures reached threshold range at 0317 station time, and Cole was already calling it before the alarm finished sounding. Thruster team, go. Translation vector 7-4, execute. Relay 7 moved. Not gracefully. A station that size was not built for grace. It was built for mass and endurance. And when the thrusters fired all at once, the vibration moved through the floor and the walls, and Cole felt it in his back teeth. But it moved. 1,200 meters in 11 seconds, which was not fast by any measure except the only measure that counted. The discharge hit where the station had been. The scanner registered the strike on empty space. Cole watched the energy readings spike and fall. He had already started his count. 4 minutes minimum, he said into the open channel. Maximum 7. We move again in 3.5. Done from the command post. Confirmed. Everyone hold positions. The station settled into its new coordinates. Cole watched the signatures. The 2 Caraveth were not circling now. They were stationary. He had read enough to guess what that meant. They had discharged. They were recharging. In the behavioral record from 60 years ago, a Veth observer had written that post-discharge Creveth went still the way predators go still after a strike. Not retreating, not resting. Purely metabolic, every system redirected to the reload. 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Thruster team, go. Vector 116, execute. The station moved again. This time the vibration was worse. Something in the lower mechanical section was not happy about rapid consecutive firings. Cole heard it in the background noise, a deep structural complaint that engineers were already moving toward. The second discharge hit empty space. 4 minutes, Cole said. Minimum. We have time. On the channel, Dana Kwan said from the docking bay, Warren, for what it's worth, this is working. Not yet, he said. Optimistic. Informed. The pattern ran for 1 hour and 40 minutes. 11 translation events, 11 discharge events that hit empty space. The 2 Kerveth did not change their behavior. They did not retreat. They did not call in the others. They simply kept firing at the place where Relay 7 was not. Cole did not relax. Not once. He sat in the scanner bay and counted seconds with his eyes open, and called each translation with enough lead time that the thruster team began anticipating him. The delay between his call and their execution dropping from 4 seconds to 2 as the hour progressed. Leo brought him water at the 40-minute mark. Cole drank it without looking away from the screen. Grace was in the comm station adjacent to him, running fleet contact updates. At the 90-minute mark, she said, the fleets adjusted their arrival. They pushed hard, 22 hours out. Still a long time, Cole said. Compared to 40 hours, Grace said. Fair. At 1 hour, 52 minutes. One of the 2 signatures changed. It moved, not toward the station, not away. It turned 90 degrees and began moving on a vector that intersected with the rest of the Kriveth group, the 5 that were circling, calculating, waiting. Cole watched it. Varek, he said. Varek was in the scanner bay with him. Had been for the last hour, silent, watching, taking notes on a device Cole had never seen before. "I see it," Varric said. "What does that mean?" Varric was quiet for a moment. In the old records, when a subordinate individual rejoins the dominant group during an active conflict, it signals one of two things. Either it has depleted its biological reserves and needs to recover within the group's thermal field. He paused. Or it has gathered information. Cole looked at the screen. The second signature was still stationary, still recharging. "What kind of information?" Cole said. Varric's voice was careful. "Information about what cannot be hit." Cole stared at the screen. Then he said, "Grace." "Yeah." "Get done." Done was on the channel in 9 seconds. Cole said, "We need a different approach. The evasion pattern is working on the subordinates, but one of them has gone back to the dominant group. I think it's reporting. I think the dominant individuals are going to change their strategy." Dunn said, "Our strategy or their strategy?" "Ours," Cole said. "We need to give them something to hit." A pause. "To explain," Dunn said. "The reason they're here is the region. The thermal shift woke them up, and the trade routes are in the center of their natural range. They're not attacking specifically. They're clearing territory. If we give them a reason to leave the territory." "What reason?" Cole had been thinking about this since the behavioral papers, since the observation notes from 60 years ago, since a sentence on page 7 of the second paper that he had read twice and then left alone because it did not seem relevant until now. "Food source," he said. The channel was quiet. Varric said slowly, "The pre-hibernation record indicates Curveth feed heavily before a sleep cycle. The proximity of their emergence to the thermal disruption zone suggests they woke early, and they may not have fed yet." "There's a dense biomass region," Cole said. 12 light hours along the galactic arm. Catalog tag 7T uninhabited. No installations. Dunn said, "You want to herd 7 apex predators 12 light hours away." "They track thermal energy," Cole said. "The station's reactor is a thermal source. So is the research installation on the coordinate string, which is why it went silent. So are the colony outposts." He pulled up the chart. "If we emit a sustained thermal pattern that degrades in a line, a breadcrumb, pointing towards 7T. They follow it," Dunn said. "They follow it. They find a feeding ground. The fleet arrives and establishes a perimeter before they finish feeding and start moving again." Another pause. "What if they don't follow?" Dunn said. "Then we go back to evasion," Cole said. "But the one that reported back just changed the calculus on how long evasion works. The dominant individuals are adaptive. They will find the pattern." Dunn made a sound that was not quite a word. Then, "Varric, your assessment." Varric said, "The thermal tracking behavior is documented. It is not guaranteed, but it is consistent. The proposal is sound." Dunn said, "Warren, you have 30 minutes to work out the thermal emission parameters with engineering. Then we execute." Cole pulled up the engineering channel. He worked. 31 minutes later, Relay 7 began emitting a thermal signal in a degrading pattern along a line pointing toward catalog tag 7T. At 37 minutes, the 2 stationary signatures began to move. At 41 minutes, 2 of the 5 circling signatures broke from the group and followed. At 53 minutes, all 7 signatures were moving in the same direction. Away. The scanner bay was silent. Then Dana Kwan from the docking bay said over the open channel, "Okay, now it's working." Nobody argued. Cole sat back in his chair. For the first time in approximately 19 hours, he let his shoulders drop. Not all the way, not yet. But enough. Grace said. "You're going to sleep now." "Probably," he said. "Dunn's going to send someone to physically relocate you if you don't." "Probably," he said again. He stood. His legs were unhappy about it, but did their job. He handed the scanner bay to the night team, gave them the cycle timing data, told them what to watch for if any signature reversed course. Then he walked back through the station. The medical corridor was quiet. He stopped at the recovery room. The door was open. Sael was asleep. Varath was in the chair beside her, awake, reading. She looked up when Cole appeared in the doorway. Their eyes met. Varath looked at him for a long moment. Then she set down her tablet. She stood. She crossed the room and stopped in front of him. "Relay 7 is intact," she said. "Yes," he said. "The signatures are retreating." "Yes." She was quiet, her 4 eyes on him. The same absolute stillness he had noticed when she first walked into the station. Then she said, "I'm going to tell you something, and you are going to stand there and receive it without deflecting." Cole blinked. "Okay." "In Veth tradition," Varath said, "there is no word for what you have done over the past 3 days. Not because it is beyond language, because we stopped believing it was possible and removed the word from active use." She paused. The word we stopped using translates approximately as "one who holds the door." Cole said nothing. "It does not mean a person who opens a door," Varath said. "It means a person who stands in a dangerous place so that others can pass through. Not as sacrifice, not as strategy." She paused again. As a decision so basic to their nature that explaining it would be like explaining why water is wet. Cole's throat moved. "You held the door," Varath said. "For my daughter. For 214 people on Keth 3. For this station." She looked at him steadily. "We do not forget. Veth do not forget. It will be in the record for as long as records are kept." Cole did not know what to say, so he said the true thing. "I just didn't want anyone else to get dissolved," he said. Varath looked at him. Then, for the first time, she smiled. It was not entirely a human expression, but the weight behind it was universal. "Yes," she said. "That is exactly what the word means." Behind her, still asleep, Sail's secondary eyes were closed, but her primary eyes had opened just slightly in the dim light. Amber, steady, watching him. Cole would only find out later, when Grace showed him the station's external logs, that during the 90 minutes of evasive translation, during all 11 maneuvers, every single call he had made had landed inside the optimal window. Not close to optimal. Inside it. Every time. Grace had asked the station's navigation system to calculate the odds of that occurring by chance. The navigation system had returned an answer so small it had rendered in scientific notation. Cole, when he saw the number, had said nothing. He had folded the log, put it in his pocket, and gone to get coffee. The coffee machine was out. He drank water instead. Outside, the fleet was 21 hours and 40 minutes away. The 7 signatures were moving in the right direction. The station was intact. The people inside it were alive. Cole stood in the empty break room with his cup of water and his pocket full of impossible odds. He drank the water. He put the cup down. He went to sleep.